Ronaldsway, the island's convenient and occasional cheap ticket across that comes without the risk of seasickness. And to help maintain the slickness of the airport's operation, along with the staff at check-in, security, departures, in the cabin and in the cockpit, there's a dedicated team who, from the vantage of a fishbowl, ensure your arrival and departure is well timed and, most importantly, safe.
Okay, thanks very much. Please disarm doors for arrival.
They are the air traffic controllers.
Jersey 2155, runway 08, clever takeoff, surface wind 010 at 11 knots.
ATCs that make the grade to work in the tower at Ronaldsway are said to be prime multitaskers, equipped with a spot-on spatial awareness and flawless mental dexterity. I spent some time up the tower to get an idea of what goes on in the day in the life of an air traffic control officer. And have you counted how many stairs there are?
Yeah, it's something like 180, I think.
Okay.
I think it's 180 to the top. I think it's the tallest occupied building on the island.
Oh, right.
It's not the highest, because we're obviously not the highest on the island. It is the tallest occupied building, I think. Okay, my name's Ben Hallowell, and I'm an air traffic control officer.
Ranger Juliet 1, can I cross runway 08, please?
Ranger, cross runway 08.
So Ben, just talk us through what your fellow colleagues are up to at the moment. Who will they be sort of in contact with?
Okay, so we've got Andy and Paul over on the assistance side. Those guys there will be in contact with their counterparts at the Scottish area centres. So they'll be taking the details for inbound and outbound flight plans that are upcoming, and any outside calls from general aviation traffic through to administrative traffic, and making sure that the air traffic control side, where we've got Matt, runs smoothly. So Matt, he's in charge of everything on the airfield, vehicles and aircraft movements, and making sure that that side of it runs smoothly. With the team downstairs, we've got Rob downstairs in the radar room, and he's in charge of the Alaman air traffic control airspace.
2155, report your passing flight level.
That's 3.7 this time, Jersey 2155.
Exit checks, contact Scottish Control 128.055. Good day.
128.055, Jersey 2155. Goodbye.
So we're at the very top of the tower, and it's an absolutely fantastic panorama of the Isle of Man. We can see Snaefell from here, we can see all the way to Bradda Head, and on a clear day, you believe you can see across the water as well?
Absolutely, we can see across the north coast of Wales there, Anglesey, and you can see over towards Cumbria as well. The new wind farm that was installed a few years ago, on a nice day you can see that, and also at night you can see the red lights there, so quite an impressive sight to see from up here.
So how necessary then is it to have a tower, to be up on the ground like this and to be able to have that vantage point? Because I mean, a lot of the guys are, they've got the computer screens in front of them, they've got the radar maps. Isn't that all you need?
Absolutely, but it's that combination. So for a tower controller, you've got your visual part and you've got your instrument rating. So it's using those two pieces of equipment basically in harmony with each other. Yes, some days we get fog on the island, as we all know, and on those days that's when the computers really come into their own. But it is essential from the tower to be able to have that vantage point. Mainly for the vehicles and for the aircraft on the ground, so that you can see where they are in the conflictions, but also when you've got light aircraft in the circuit and integrating them with instrument traffic as well. So that's where the skill of the air traffic controller comes in, and you need to be able to see each other.
So what's it like waking up on a foggy day, coming to work? Is that then for you, does that set you up for a really challenging day?
It can do. I mean, we can go where if it's very bad weather, you can see very few movements in the day, and it's quite disappointing really. Other days where it becomes more challenging is where sometimes you have the fog, sometimes you get a small gap, the fog comes back in, and that makes it very challenging. When aircraft are desperately trying to make approaches and do their best, and you've got aircraft that do make approaches, and the fog comes in, and they have to execute what we know as a go-around, so a missed approach, and that increases your workload up here, but also downstairs in radar massively then. And again, that's where the skill comes in, making sure that you can separate those aircraft.
Phone call.
So,
Ronaldsway right now.
Rob, who is our air traffic controller at the moment, our radar controller, is just negotiating with the Scottish Area Centre.
Yeah, it's well to the north up towards Blackpool.
Our traffic there, who's currently over Blackpool, most likely because of weather avoiding. There's been a couple of thunderstorms out that way at the moment. So because of that weather, obviously planes don't like to fly through thunderstorms. It can be quite damaging for them. Hail inside there, they don't want to be in contact with lightning. So Rob's going to give him a service, most probably outside controlled airspace. Different levels of service that he can provide there, but it's a different routing to what he's normally used to. So that's going to make Rob a little bit more busy than he would normally be, depending on what traffic levels he's got on top as well.
My name's Rob Waite and I'm the Senior Air Traffic Controller. This aeroplane here, this is the Jersey, this is the Flybe flight, it's coming from Manchester. It would normally be about 15 miles south of where it is, down towards Liverpool, but at the moment it's up at Blackpool, which is very unusual. And that's because on the radar here we've got lots of thunderstorms around. So he's basically dodging around thunderstorms at the moment.
So this map of the British Isles, or at least the surrounding area of the Isle of Man, sort of highlights the flight paths and what's in the air at the moment, but also the weather as well. And that's these sort of highlighted yellow areas, am I right?
Yeah, that's right. That's the sort of hashed yellow areas. That's all the various thunderstorms that are around at the moment. There's a big bank of them moving up through the Midlands, and they're heading towards the sort of northwest of the UK, so towards Liverpool, Blackpool, Manchester. So this chap's basically weaving his way through them. So I've got to take him all the way out towards the Calf of Man to come into land over Castletown. But whilst I'm doing that, I've got to try and avoid this weather. They don't want to go in there. It's pretty unpleasant.
Heading is 290 degrees, 2 Tango Hotel.
2 Tango Hotel, Roger, and Steve.
And so this radar system that you have here, this is the complete 100% overview of what is in the sky at the moment.
Absolutely. We've got two different types of radar here. So we've got a primary radar, which is sending out a pulse, an electronic pulse, and that then bounces off anything and comes back and gives us a primary return. So anything that's in the sky, it will pick that up. We've then got an MLAT system, multilateration system, which gives us information. So aircraft call sign, its level, the heading, the speed. We can tap into other information, but that's key information that we rely on at the moment. And together, those two systems tell us exactly where that aircraft is in relation to other aircraft and in relation to where it is over the ground. And obviously in the sky. So we get to see a lot more than you will see on flight radar, because obviously flight radar is only giving you certain aircraft that are in the sky, so some military aircraft you won't see.
2 Tango Hotel, rollers to radar, good afternoon, inspectors for the ILS approach for runway 08 and information whiskey is current.
Whiskey will copy Jersey 2 Tango Hotel, thanks.
Jersey 2 Tango Hotel, I understand any one shift we're allowed to work 10 hours maximum. So for example, today I started at 1 o'clock, so by 11 o'clock I have to finish, which is sometimes a problem if we have a late flight. And that's often the case when people hear that the airport is closed. A lot of the reasons for that is that we have run out of hours, so we're not allowed to work beyond 10 hours.
And of course, an airport without a functioning air traffic control is, non-functional.
Correct, because the airfield licence, we can't operate without air traffic controllers. Because one of our principal tasks is the alerting service. That is, if something goes wrong, if an aircraft has a problem, then we alert all the emergency services. So without air traffic, that wouldn't take place. So you just can't operate scheduled traffic, passenger aircraft without air traffic control.
Just, I suppose, how much alertness does this job require? Because there were moments up on the air traffic control tower, there was just a fair degree of serenity. It was very calm, it was very cool, it was a great view. But have there been times where you have found perhaps it quite challenging? Yeah,
absolutely. And anybody who flies in and out of the Isle of Man will know that if you drive past, sometimes you won't see anything going on. You think, it's very quiet. And there are periods like that. This afternoon, for example, we've got quite a quiet period. However, all it really takes is a couple of extra flights coming in or a bit of bad weather. We've just witnessed one aircraft being vectored around thunderstorms. That increases our workload, particularly if you've got 2 or 3 aircraft all being vectored around a big weather storm, and they're all at the same level. You've got to keep them apart. So it is one of those jobs where you could be sat here for a little while, not quite twiddling your thumbs, but relatively quiet, and then suddenly it gets very busy, and that's when you really need to step up, and you can't afford to make a single mistake. So you've really got to be on the ball all the time, really.
What's the most aircraft that you've had on your plate?
Ooh, tricky one. I know it was quite a few years ago when the airport was a bit busier, but we had fog here once, and I had, I think I had the hold. We got a reporting point called Kelly. I had 5 in the hold there, 2 in the hold over the Calf of Man, and then another one. So about 7 or 8 at once. And then when the weather improves, suddenly they all want to land. So that gets very busy.
And I suppose that kind of situation unprecedented.
Not at the moment it would be, because we're not as busy. This is going back probably 10 years ago. We're not as busy at the moment. I mean, the airport passenger numbers are still pretty much the same as it was 10 years ago, but we have much larger aircraft, so we don't have so many flights. But it can happen any time. It can get busy. You know, if we get a lot of training flights in, so sometimes we have the military here, the Hawks from RAF Valley come to train. You put them in with a couple of scheduled arrivals and somebody else training, it gets very busy. So you really never know what you're going to get during the day. Sometimes you never know what's going to come up in half an hour. So watch this space. 2 Tango Hotel, Roger, continue present heading, report that heading.
Heading is 290 degrees, 2 Tango Hotel.
2 Tango Hotel, Roger, and it's deconfliction service.
Roger, deflection service, 2 Tango Hotel.
Okay, well, that's good. So he's happy to go through that little bit of weather that's showing up there. If he wasn't happy, his weather radar on the aircraft, he'd asked for a turn. There was a gap between these 2 cells. I was going to put him through there, but as he says he's happy, I'm going to take him through.
So current course is safe, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. He's going to carry on like that for the next 30 miles or so, I think. I'm going to start bringing him down in the height. That's okay. Should get that upstairs. Okay. Here's 2 Tango Hotel. When ready, descend flight level 50.
After you, and then round to the right. So, what you can see here on the runway at the moment, we've got a training aircraft, it's a Royal Air Force training aircraft. They do occasionally come in here, and this is what's actually quite nice with our traffic levels. When we are quiet, we've got the opportunity to invite the likes of the RAF or locally based people or people from further afield to come in and use our facilities for training, and we're trying to expand that as much as we can here. It's good for us as air traffic controllers. It keeps our skills up, particularly with our procedural rating, which is something that everybody else has got in the UK, but it's nice for us to keep that up. And it's good for these guys as well to keep their training up as well.
Right, so you're in contact not just obviously with the commercial airlines, but I imagine, like you say here, the RAF and a number of other aircraft.
Absolutely, yeah. Even business jets. We've got the jet centre down at the far side there of the apron. That's quite a good portion of our traffic. Is sort of that commercial side of it, as well as the private jets. They come in and do some training as well as the military. The Coast Guard come in with the helicopters and do training, private helicopters as well. So that allows us to sort of see a big variety of different types of aircraft, different types of approaches. And they're after different things each time they come as well. So
for a long while there were 2 colleges that weren't sort of supporting a direct airport or single company that provides air traffic controllers.
Beyond the tower and over in Gloucester is the Global Aviation Training Services College, where the newly recruited ATCOs at Ronaldsway begin their initial education. John English is head of training with Global ATS.
Obviously, there's no doubting the intensity of operations at somewhere like Heathrow, but it is very much the best analogy is it's that sausage factory where they are coming down the chute at you faster and faster and faster, and it's intense and it's unrelenting, and it takes an incredible level of concentration to be able to cope and to operate at those intensity levels for the period of time that they do.
0 knots for an Airbus 320 with Bravo.
Movement 823 Heathrow, it is a hold at Bollingdon, it's 5 minutes.
Then you take that to the Ronaldsway example, and the variety of aircraft that they face and the challenges they face, whilst different, they require a similar skill set. But their challenges can be the fact that they're dealing with lots of different aircraft, which have got lots of different sizes, which create different weight turbulence, and also different speeds. So there's lots and lots of control of fast behind slow is very difficult. Slow behind fast is not so hard. But also they've got an element of the unknown, because aircraft can call them up who've just decided to go flying for the day when the weather's nice. You don't have that. Not every aircraft has to file a flight plan to get airborne. So somewhere like Ronaldsway, you can be sitting there controlling your commercial traffic that you were expecting, and all of a sudden, 3 or 4 extra aircraft can just call you up out of the blue that you would never know were coming. You can certainly expect them, and historical evidence would suggest they may call, but you never know when they're going to call. So there's that level of uncertainty, which means that you've got to be able to potentially take your concentration levels from ticking along at 50, 60% and have them up at 100% at the drop of the hat.
Landing now, we've got the hospital flight. He's using our out of wind runway, our cross runway. Smaller aircraft, he's able to do that. Again, a totally different type of approach for him. If it's a nice day, which is today, he can make a visual approach. If it's a poor day and he wants to use that particular runway, he has to use a surveillance radar approach. Again, something that you very, very rarely see at a bigger airport, but a skill that we exercise here. And it just opens up that possibility and flexibility to him. It allows the hospital flight to be back here for the next patient to go out. So it's providing that service for the island, really, and keeping the island moving as best we can, doing our little bit to help.
Global ATS have been training new recruits at Ronaldsway since 2002. I asked John about this process.
They've obviously got 2 systems, or widely used system that I think Ronaldsway use, which is called a feast test. And that is an assessment of the candidate's ability to cope with the rigours of the role. So it's an aptitude assessment. Global ATS, we also do our own version. What I would say is that feast is very good when you've got 100 candidates and you're trying to get them down to 10. We're very good at taking the 10 and then turning them into 2 or 3. So what we're looking for, and what we test through that, is we're looking at abstract reasoning, what we call space relations, so the ability to assimilate information in the third dimension, and speed, distance, time, heading appreciation, and then just general aviation knowledge. The first course they do, the initial training course, is called the basic training course, and I always say it's the biggest misnomer. It's so far from basic. I wish that it was referred to as a foundation course rather than a basic course, because although it covers predominantly theory, it has a short introduction to the practical parts of the role, but the theory is hard graft, and it really puts them through the ringer, learning all of that theory that underpins the knowledge that they need to go on to the practical assessments.
And so how long is that initial basic training?
Yeah, so that's 9 weeks, and as I say, that contains the background theory. There's regular progress examinations throughout that, and then the last 2 weeks they get their sort of first taste of what it's like to apply that knowledge practically, where they go into, we've got 2 basic simulators that they use at that stage of training.
Oh, so they get hands-on.
So they actually get on the simulators, yeah. So they'll be, controlling aircraft that are routing across airspace and changing the levels and headings of those aircraft to make sure that they're kept separated. But they also then go into a 2-dimensional aerodrome simulator at that stage, where they get a chance to actually keep the aerodrome traffic moving, including vehicles. So they're clearing aircraft to take off, and they're integrating them with approach aircraft coming into approach to land. And they're also manoeuvring vehicles and controlling the vehicle movements on the surface of the aerodrome as well. So they get to experience all of that whilst still on that initial basic training course.
So this is our little corridor of power, so Rob's office there.
I wanted to sit down with Ben and understand how he became an air traffic controller in the first place. From your point of view, why did you get into this industry? What is it that drew you to it?
There's lots of different reasons that drew me to it. I wanted a change of career where I was at the time. I'd seen the student programme come up. I was never one, when I left school, to want to go to university. However, I've sort of changed in my outlook now. I've sort of developed those learning skills as I've gone through the air traffic control world. And as a student at CO, that training is provided for you. So that was something that drew me to the job, that it was all specific to the job. Rather than going and doing a course I didn't want to use, I knew I would have a benefit for it at the end. The shift work is great. I'm not a Monday to Friday 9 to 5, as my wife will say. I hate doing that. I much prefer to have the afternoon off. She thinks I only work part-time because of this, but no, I do enjoy it. It is great. The work-life balance is good. It has its downsides as well. Trying to plan ahead for a wedding in, say, next summer, somebody invites you to that, and I don't know why I'm working yet, sort of thing. So that 7-day-a-week cycle is quite challenging to work with, but it has its benefits as well.
What would then be the typical traits of an air traffic controller? What are their main skills, would you say? Main
skills is being calm. It's being able to think outside the box, but also apply the rules. We're very strict with the rules things we can and we can't do, but also being able to be dynamic with that and make your traffic pattern flow smoothly, efficiently, and safely. So that skill, that's something that you've got to be able to have both of. Being able to do left and right, upside down, things like that, looking at a screen, thinking in a 3-dimensional environment whilst working in a 2-dimensional world on that screen, and seeing the level changes and using the numbers, the headings. So all those skills, those cognitive skills to have to put together is quite challenging.
So effectively, multitasking really is pretty key to this job.
Massively, yes, and for it being a male-orientated industry,
where are all the women?
Absolutely, yes. So it would be ideal for a multitasking industry, but no, we're very very few females in the industry. As I say, here we've only got 2. We've got 1 female air traffic controller and 1 female assistant, and that seems to be a general trend throughout the UK and globally as well. We've currently got 12 air traffic controllers, I think, offhand, and 5 assistants possibly. So we need to expand our team that we've got here at the moment to keep up the service level that we've got, hence why we're taking on qualified assistant and also student air traffic controllers at the moment.
Why then do you think it lacks the appeal, the job or perhaps the industry to women?
I don't know, to be quite honest, and it's something that we have all discussed and tried to really come to the bottom of. It's not just here on the island. In the UK there's a shortage. Globally there is a shortage of controllers as well. As I say, the package is very good. We're offering the training. The student programme here does seem quite popular, and that is something we're investing more and more into. We certainly invested recently into as well. So hopefully we can grow that. But trying to get people to work on the island, I know other sectors, and certainly within government and on the island, struggling to get people in. So we're just falling into that same category, unfortunately.
I put this to John at Global ATS.
One of my concerns as somebody who's just generally interested in aviation and has been involved in air traffic control since the early 90s, what concerns me is that there isn't the budget to nationally recruit air traffic controllers. National Air Traffic Services has obviously a marketing budget, NATS have a marketing budget, and the Royal Air Force have a marketing budget. But who's recruiting or who's inspiring the generation that are going to go and become controllers at Ronaldsway? Who's inspiring the next generation of controllers who are going to control at Humberside or Newcastle or Norwich or Dundee? This is what concerns me, is there's not more of a national approach. I think that our exposure at university and at high school level is low. I don't think there's many people who grow up can't wait to become an air traffic controller. They're more likely to say they want to be a train driver than they are an air traffic controller, and I think that's something we need to change. As far as manning levels go, the demand in the Middle East, where obviously there was a huge increase, particularly in Dubai, of aircraft movements, required a certain experience skill set from busy airports. So, and they were offering considerable sums to move there. So quite a few air traffic controllers from the UK were tempted. They generally came from the higher tier airports, your Gatwicks, your Heathrows, your Manchesters, Birminghams and the like. And of course, as soon as that skill set leaves, that needs to be replaced. So it's simple economics. They pull up from the bottom. And it's those airports that are either geographically marginalised or traffic loading marginalised that suffer. So it has become a real issue for recruitment.
Just thinking back to the Isle of Man and talking about this idea of the variety there, I mean, that can't be overlooked, I guess, in the idea of a sort of national apprenticeship and a training scheme. And I'd imagine from your point of view, you'd want to keep Ronaldsway in the loop, I guess. 100%,
yeah, no, absolutely. So we've just had a UK seminar where all of our customers were invited to attend, and we put on we sat with our consultancy firm that we're using, who's taken us through the apprenticeship approvals process, and we offered we offered a forum to discuss what the airports required us and also what we needed to provide as a training provider on that apprenticeship scheme. That should be coming online mid-2020, and we will have boots on the ground. We'll be out visiting all of the airports that we possibly can, and I'd love to include that. I'd love that to be Ronaldsway. It's somewhere I've never been, and I've got lots of friends from the Isle of Man, and so I'd love to come over and visit the tower and talk to them about it. I would welcome the invite.